Hello, everyone. Welcome to the program Consciousness in Evolution from Reaprendência International. Reaprendência is a conscientiocentric institution specialized in re-education, parapedagogy, parapsychism, and self-improvement. And so, in our program, we bring researchers and instructors of conscientiology to present and debate themes related to human evolution, personal growth, bioenergies, out-of-body experience, and others, under the lens of the consciential paradigm. So we are live from our channels Consciousness in Evolution and Reaprendência International at YouTube. In today's webinar, we are going to discuss about the challenges of writing a scientific article inside the consciential paradigm lens. And why did we choose this theme? Because many people want to write, but always procrastinate it. Have you ever felt any difficulty in writing about your personal experiences and recyclings? I have. And which skills are necessary to write and publish an article or other scientific texts? Well, in today's webinar, our guest is instructor Ligia Decker, and she's the editor of a scientific journal and has a large academic experience and is going to talk about all these issues and try to help us to learn more about it. And she's going to tell us some basic steps for writing a scientific paper with a conscientiological approach. So, welcome, Ligia Decker. It's very nice to have you here today.
Hello, Eliane. Hello, everybody. It's a pleasure for me to be here. Thank you very much for this invitation. It's always nice to talk about writing, and at the same time, it's very challenging for all of us. So let's see if we can discuss it in a good way and have a fruitful webinar today.
Very good. So, Ligia Decker is a veterinarian, holds a PhD in tropical veterinary medicine, and currently is a retired professor. She has been a Penta practitioner since 2017, a member of the Invisible College of Pentology, verbetographer, instructor of Conscientiology, and editor of the International Journal of Conscientiology. Presently, she is a volunteer for the International Association of Seriexological and Holobiographic Research, Consecutivos, and also she is a volunteer at Reaprendência and Isaac. So, very good resume, Ligia.
A lot of work, huh? A lot of
A
work.
lot of work. We know
Yeah.
Ligia for her qualities, her skills of working seriously with science inside the consciential paradigm. So welcome, Ligia.
Thank you.
Let's introduce our webinar today. And the first thing that we are going to call your attention is for the principle of disbelief. So don't believe in anything, not even in what you hear in this webinar. Experiment, have your own experiences. And so some rhetoric questions, okay, that we have to be aware of. Have you ever thought about writing a contribution for a scientific journal? Because we have always receiving invitations and call for papers. And we at least in my situation, I look at them and said, well, I have some experience that I could write for this scientific paper. I'll try to write. And another question, how many times have you postponed it? If you did so, maybe you can answer. You can send us your comments if you have experienced that. And have you figured out why? Why are we procrastinating things? If we have good experiences, if we want to write, we want to contribute, to leave our mark, to give our retribution for what we've learned so far. So this is it's always challenging to organize ourselves. Why? Let's talk a little bit about. So Lisa, now I'm going to pass the word for you to talk about the webinar outline. What are we expected to see today?
Yes, well, there would be a lot of things to be presented, discussed in this webinar. But considering these last questions you presented, Eliane, I'm proposing these topics here. So let's see if we can first make a very short, a very, very short introduction about the conscientiological writing itself, because there is a difference, or there are many differences between writing in conventional science and writing under the conscientiological paradigm. And then we are going to move on about the choosing the topic. This is another challenge. So where to start from, in which format should I publish my ideas, and where to publish. And then I think is the most dense part of this webinar will be these 10 simple steps to writing a scientific paper. So I will try to bring some practical examples, especially from our experience with the International Journal of Conscientiology. I will talk a bit about it later on. And then we move on to the most common problems and difficulties people come with, yeah, when they decide to write. And then hopefully we have some time for questions. But I want to point out, Eliane, if you have any comments or if we have some questions from the audience, you can always stop me and we can debate if something needs to be more, you know, detailed or talking about specific aspects we are going to discuss here
Very
today,
good.
okay? So I think we should start with some ideas. And I don't know if you all agree with this statement. I particularly agree that the hardest part of writing is thinking. Why is that? Because we need to organize our ideas. So we used to say that writing consists of 99% of thinking and only 1% of writing, the act of writing itself. So we used to say that it's like a puzzle. And then when you know what you want to say and how you want to say it, writing becomes an easier and a more successful process. So don't hesitate to spend some time thinking, reflecting, and organizing your ideas before you actually sit in front of a computer or get a piece of paper and try to write something. Yeah, this is very, very important. I think it's maybe some people are too anxious to start writing and then they want to see the text ready. But this process before writing is really important, especially when we are talking about the consensual paradigm, which is the next topic. And I would like you, Eliane, to explain a bit about
Yes.
this, yeah, the theory, the leading
Mm-hmm.
theory of conscientiology.
Yes, it's important to mention that our focus in this webinar is to write under the consciential paradigm. So we consider some pillars, and I'm going to let you know very briefly because there might be some people that are new here. And the consciential paradigm considers the holosomatic. It means that we don't have only the physical body, but we have other bodies. We have a set of four bodies: soma, the energosoma or the energy body, the psychosoma or the emotional body, and mental soma, that is the mental body, responsible for intellectuality. And so Then you're going to ask, is it writing related to some of these vehicles of manifestation or bodies? In fact, it's related to all of them a little bit, right? And another pillar of conceptual paradigm is bioenergetics that considers all the immanent and potential energies that we are immersed in, and also our how do we interact with this bioenergy, because they are very healthy for us. We know how to manage them. If we master them, we can have great benefits. So it's another pillar. We talk about multidimensionality, that is the innumerable dimensions and non-physical realities that we are constantly interacting with, although many of us are not aware of it. We talk about seriality, that are the numerous human lives in terms of periods that we have experienced during our evolutionary process. And we also consider a great and important pillar called cosmoethics, that is the ethics of the cosmos or the cosmic moral, that goes beyond the human ethics. Also, universalism, that considers that we are universal beings, cosmopolitan, and we should be in our evolutionary process open for integration with any other beings and nature and reality. And also, the last and very important pillar is the self experimentation. So everything we study, it's based on self research. We bring the theory into our practice, into our everyday reality. And that's from these pillars that we bring our experience for writing, our our findings, our research, right? Always based on producing something that is interassistential. Okay, Ligia?
Mhm. Yes, so it's a quite complex process, yeah. And I think one important point to stress here is that we are the researcher, the one who is researching something, but also at the same time, we are the object of the research. So this makes things completely different from the conventional paradigm in science, yeah. So let's start by adding something to these pillars, which is in addition to the process of the information, to gather information, we also need to figure out how to get our thoughts. And here we include two other elements, because when we have thoughts, we are dealing also with our sentiments and our energies. So we bring all together this concept of Tosin to the text we are writing. Yeah. So it's that's the reason we say that writing under the consensual paradigm is a very highly complex process requiring skills involving sub skills. So in this case, combining everything, we can say that this is a multidimensional and interconsensual process. So we are dealing with different dimensions. So consciousness manifesting in different dimensions. And also we are dealing with interactions between consciousness. Yeah. And as Eliane mentioned before, the main reason to write is interassistance. So this should be clear in our mind every time we sit and try to write something about our experiences, about our research, and so on. So this is the main reason we need to write, yeah, to help this interassistential process. So it's interassistential because it involves the writer and the one who is going to read the message. So we used to say that the first person to be assisted in this process is the one who is providing the assistance, in this case, the writer. Yeah, so it's an interassistential process.
And
So,
Lígia,
yeah, yeah,
yeah, just to mention that every time we want to write about something, usually what calls our attention is something, is a difficulty that we used to have, and we were able to overcome. Then usually people get very motivated to write about something, some difficulty that they overcame, and
yes,
it's very good. And it's what I want to point out is that even if we overcome a part of it, not totally, but we are in under the process, and if the process is being positive for you, then it means that you can already write something about that will be interassistential.
yeah.
So
And when
don't
you
wait
write,
too much to
yes,
write. Don't wait for, oh, I have to be more evolved to publish something. No, start writing now. It's all helps the process.
yes. And it's like when you write, you go deeper into the subject. So you can help other people to overcome the same or similar aspects or situations. Yeah? And then we go to the first question many people ask, which topic should I write about? Yeah, this is a very common question we hear every day. So how to choose a topic to write about? And here I related some examples. So something you already know or you would like to learn more about. So this is very common. So I have a background about one subject, but I want to go deeper. So it's very good to write about it, to increase or amplify your knowledge about this topic, or something you react to. This is another point. So you are skeptical about, you are not comfortable about. It's very good tip for you to explore, to understand better this topic. Yeah, something that inspires you, something you like very much, or something that bothers you is also another way to choose and to approach. A trade condition, like Eliane mentioned before, a condition you have recycled, so something you overcome or you are more comfortable about, or unknown phenomena you experienced. There are many parapsychic phenomena, for example, you cannot give a specific name or you don't understand about it. So when you write, you have the chance to get more knowledge about it, to understand your experiences, and to share with other people who might help you to understand and to read about this. Yeah? Or a research problem you want to address. There is something you want to explore, you want to find a solution, or a technique you have developed, and so on and so forth. So this is without end. The reasons and the way to choose a topic is very related to your condition today. So that's why I said, I placed this question, what is calling your attention now? This is a good tip to choose a topic, to write, to investigate, to research about, and to produce something on this field. You want to add something, Eliane?
No, but we have a question here. Not,
Yes.
and I was looking for the meaning of neurotypical person. I never heard about this expression, and I will read the question, and I have just discovered what it is.
Okay.
What is your advice to write about facilitating the learning process for neurotypical person considering the conscientiological approach? For example, a neurotypical person is a term used to describe a person whose brain functions are considered usual or expected by society.
Okay.
Okay?
Well, I think this question brings the importance to make this link between the two paradigms. Yeah, the consensual paradigm and the conventional paradigm. Because when we say neurotypical person, we are thinking about the conventional paradigm. Yeah, parameters, you consider somebody to work neurologically according to one perspective, let's say. Yeah. So I would say that trying to understand the ways you manifest, the ways you learn something new, I think it would be a good approach to share with other people. Yeah, because of course everyone is very singular. Every consciousness is a singular consciousness, but we have things that can be similar and can help others. So to share our experience about the process of learning, I think it's could be a good approach. Yeah, the way you learn new things. For example, many people learn a new language alone. They get material, they start something, and they learn it um, nearly intuitively. Other people they attend several language courses and they are not able to speak a language properly after many years. So, yeah, here's the explanation. Without, okay, this is a very complex topic, huh?
I want
Because,
to add something.
yeah, yeah,
Ligia,
yeah,
something that is important is whenever we talk about writing according inside conscientiology, and all the text, what's the difference between conventional science and conscientiology? The main difference, of course, there are lots of difference, bioenergies, multidimensionality, and this cosmoethical approach that's not considered only the human ethics, but it's a broader ethic. But the main difference is that we have to include parapsychism in our considerations. We have to consider above all. And what is parapsychism? Is an interaction that we have with other dimensions. And for example, when we write an article that is as interassistention or everything, an article, a book, a verbate, we have what we call helper, that is an extra physical consciousness that is interested that we write that well to do interassistance to other people as well. So we have to consider this both sides, the parapsychism, the help of the helpers,
yeah,
and that's great.
yeah. And I also would like to add something because this question, um, I think, is referring very much to our brain, our physical brain. Yeah. And we have to consider several aspects, especially the genetics, yeah, the mesology and the epigenetics also. But when we talk about the consensual paradigm, we also consider something called paragenetics. So a consciousness brings things from previous experiences, from previous lives. So that's why it's more complex. So I would say that it's one part of the research can be focused on our physical brain. This is very important, especially to identify malfunctions or problems when we are talking about learning process, for example, the example she gave. But at the same time, we should focus also in other aspects. Yeah, when we talk about multidimensionality, like you mentioned, Eliane, we have to also consider the multi-existential aspects of a consciousness. So our manifestation today is a result from several experiences we had during intraphysical lives and also extraphysical periods before we have been born here in this body. Yeah, so we had several different bodies, different brains, but our parabrain is like our background. Yeah, the whole thing registered our experiences, our learning process, and so on. So just to make this link to amplify the way we consider things under the paradigm.
Very good.
Okay? If it's not clear, Chris, then please bring your question again and specify more what you want to point out, okay? So can we go on?
Sure.
So the next topic in this outline I presented was the format. So there are several different formats of writing scientifically. So the most known is the original article. So it's a complete publication, and it requires more work, more research, but we also have the possibility to publish, for example, case reports, some experiences we had. So they are normally shorter publications, but not less important. There are many case reports which are really important for the community. We can have also technical notes, for example, explaining a technique or a procedure. Interviews, we have some examples in the International Journal of Conscientiology. I will show the website soon and some more examples. But we published some interviews, for example, with Valdo Vieira. We have 2 interviews with Valdo Vieira, 1 interview with Antônio Pitaguari. So things that are important, to bring for the scientific community. Or reviews. I can review one topic. Let's say lucid projection. I can write an article, publication, with all or most important papers published on that subject so far. Or we can have also meta-analysis. Meta-analysis is when you make a statistical combination or a statistical approach combining 2 or more publications on a field. So this means that you go beyond the results and the conclusions from each article, and you combine this and you come with more information, with a more consistent information about that topic. Or you can make comments on, for example, you can comment on a book, on a film, a movie, or an event. We published one comment from one researcher who attended one event in the USA, for example. And this was very informative for people who could not attend the event. So there are many possibilities. And editorials. Editorials normally are written by the editors of a journal. And normally it's the first publication of one volume and explains the scope, the papers published, and so on. So to make a summary, a scientific contribution can be based on theoretical and empirical evidence, or can support a hypothesis or some hypothesis through an original approach, research approach, or you can describe something already existing, or you can comment on current trends or publications or what's going on in a specific field. So there are many possibilities to publish. The important point is, okay, I choose the topic. What is the best format? What is the most appropriate format for what I want to publish? So this is, again, a time you should spend to reflect about the format you want to publish. Yeah? And then once you decide about the format, comes the next question, where to publish it? So in Conscientiology, what we have normally are the call for papers. So normally they are associated, they are linked to one event. This is the most common case, but we also can have continuous submission. So you can send your contributions throughout the year, for example. Yeah. So here in Conscientiology, today in May, we have 22 scientific journals. So there is a big range of specialties to publish your paper. And I placed here the journal Conscientia because it was the first published scientific journal of Conscientiology, and it's running until today. And some volumes have been dedicated to other languages apart from Portuguese. So you can then join to a call for papers, for example, and see if it's possible to publish in English or in other languages, like they published in French, one edition, Spanish, another edition, and so on. But what I want to bring here is the journal. I'm an editor now, currently, which is the International Journal of Conscientiology. This journal was created in 2021, and it's an initiative from ISIC, from the pre-conscientiocentric, nearly conscientiocentric institution now, which deals with the internationalization of conscientiology. So this journal is published as an effort together, ISIC and CIF. So the aim of the journal is exactly the internationalization of conscientiology. So we publish all papers in English. We publish one volume every year, except the first ones. The first year was 2 volumes. And normally we have a call for papers linked to one event. Most of the case we have been doing publications linked to the International Week of Conscientiology or to the International Weekend, which is a smaller event. And we are now in the 4th edition, so 2024, we are going to publish papers related to the martyrdom scene of the event in Australia. Yeah, so this is really something offering a very good opportunity for everyone to bring their contributions. Yeah, so here is the website address of the International Journal of Conscientiology. And what I want to bring here in this slide, once you decide the topic you want to publish and where you want to publish or where it fits, yeah, more than where you want, but where it fits, the next step is to look for the author guidelines. So every journal has guidelines for authors. So once you decide, you should follow the guidelines regarding the format, the content, the references, and so on. This will make your life much easier. If you have guidelines you can follow, this is really wonderful. But unfortunately, many people don't pay attention to this detail. You are mute.
Another suggestion for the ones who want to publish in a specific journal is to take the journal and take a look in the articles that were published. Yeah. You can get a lot of ideas and inspiration through the other articles that have already been published. And what I want to show you as well is a very simple technique that I usually do, and I learned in Conscientiology, that is to have some piece of paper always with you and you note your ideas, your insights, and inspirations about things you want to write. Okay, so each sheet of paper, it's one theme, one specific theme. And then if you have another theme, another paper. And you, during the day, as you said, you have to think about the theme. So how you're going to present, what questions you are going to raise, where you're going to catch more information about it. So you start writing and taking your notes. It's a conscientiological technique for writing, for
Yeah,
registering your ideas. It's the very first beginning for
yeah,
you to write your ideas.
yeah. And I just want to mention there is one journal, the Interparadigmas. It's a journal publishing bilingual papers. So all the publications are in Portuguese and in English as well. So this is another possibility, especially for those more related to academic issues and this topic, this speciality of between the interparadigmatic transition and so on. Okay, so let's go ahead because we have a lot to talk about. So the general structure of an article, it depends on the journal. Each journal has one structure, but normally it's a title, the author's name, abstract, keywords, and then the content itself. So an introduction, development, and conclusions, and references. So this is the basic structure you normally have to write. Yeah. And here I just make one example of a paper from our International Journal of Conscientiology. This is a paper from Eliane. I will talk more about it at the end. Conscientiological translation into English. And as you can see here, this structure, this format is specific for the journal. So when you write a manuscript, don't worry about how it looks like, because it's quite different from what it will look like at the end when it's published. Yeah, so the guidelines tells you the size of the letters, the space between lines, and the margins, and so on, and how to reference, how to cite the reference, and so on. So it's a manuscript in Word normally, program Word, very different from what we see at the end with the publication. Yeah. So now let's move on to this simple 10 steps to write a scientific paper. So I will start first with one recommendation. Of course, everyone has his or her own way to write. Yeah. This is only a proposal. I got these tips or these suggestions from this web page from Andrea Armani, and I made some adjustments to our consensual paradigm. So what she suggests as 10 simple steps, I think it's very effective. So the first thing is, don't start by the title itself. The title will be only for your work at this point. Yeah, so write a vision statement. This I'm calling the running title. It can be a matter to a scene or the general idea you want to write. Don't worry about many details, and it will not be the final title. Okay? Don't start at the beginning. This is one mistake. So when we read a scientific paper, you read the title, abstract, keywords, and then the text. But when you write, don't try to write in this sequence, because normally it's more difficult. So first, make this step number 3. You make a storyboard of facts, para-facts, perceptions, your feelings, your experience. So spend some time making like a brainstorm. Bring together the ideas. What Eliane said about writing ideas along the day, or if you watch Tertulia, or if you read a book, or if you start something, comes one idea, write down. So try to make this puzzle, yeah, these ideas, these facts, part of facts, and what happened to you, your experiences.
And here, Ligia, if I may add
Yeah.
something in this number 3, if you have a problem, i.e. an issue that you want to research deeper, go digging into it. So here is the moment. You write, contextualize, tell what happened, tell your story, your experience, and which issue you want to overcome.
Yeah.
So here is you include in this number 3. Then you mentioned the facts and parafacts related to it, and I think it flows. The
Yeah.
text is usually flows if you use this technique.
Yeah, so once you have spent time organizing these ideas, write the methods, the methodology you used. So the type of research, is it a qualitative, is it a quantitative research? The research design, which approach are you using? If you are dealing with collection of data, how you collect the data? Which instruments did you use? Did you use a questionnaire? Or you made a literature review? Or you made an experimentation in a laboratory, for example? So the experimental procedures, the analysis you made, we mentioned about the meta-analysis. So here you should say, I used the approach of a meta-analysis, or whatever you used should be clear, defined, yeah? And ethical issues. This is a very important aspect. And I just want to mention some examples of ethical issues, because it goes beyond this aspect of, for example, if you use data from other people, if you collect data, you have to be safe, you have to be sure that you are allowed to do this, yeah? Or you should not publish names of people or experience of other people without the consent of these people. Yeah, a lot of things. And other issues can be related, for example, this is a very common question, Eliane. Many people come and ask us at the International Journal, I have published a paper in Portuguese. Can I translate it in English and publish it in your journal? Normally not, because there is when you publish something, you transfer the copyright of that publication either to the journal or to the publisher or to the institution, the conscientiocentric institution. So to republish this, first, it's not a new information. You have published it before, yeah? And second, you are not allowed, you don't want, this is a bit strange, but once you publish something, normally you transfer the copyright. So this text doesn't belong to you any longer, yeah? So there are many issues related to this, and I want to bring one example, which was your article, Eliane, because your article about translation into English is a republication from one paper you published in the Journal of Conscientiology some years ago, 2017 or, yeah? So what we did, we invited Eliane to republish the paper, but making some updates. She included new examples, and she actually published something in a better way. than before. So it was an update version from the previous paper. And we asked the journal the permission to publish it. So if you read the publication, you will see that it stayed there with the permission from Conscientia. Yeah? Another example are the translations of verbs. Sometimes we have publications in our journal, at the International Journal of Conscientiology. We translate verbs into English, from Portuguese into English. And we ask the permission to Encyclosapiens, which is the institution publishing the encyclopedia. So you see, this question about ethical issues is really complex when it comes to writing a scientific paper. These are only examples I gave.
The tendency is that when you do a republication of your article, it is going to be better because some time has passed and you got the ideas more mature. And
Yeah.
you put new approaches, new ideas, you do some adaptations, and the tendency is that the article is going to be even better than the first publication. That's the idea.
Yeah. So to make it short, is the message is if you have published something in the past and you in another language, not in English, and you want to publish something now, don't publish the translation, but make a new publication and cite your original publication. Yeah, this is the recommendation.
And I would like just to mention about methodology that some basic methodology and in conscientiology is exactly like the conventional science, is the bibliographic research, is where we get the majority, the great, the principal contents is through bibliographical research from verbs, other books, other articles, right? And another difference in conscientiological methodology is that it considers your self-experience, your insights, your ideas, right? As a scientific data.
Yeah. Okay? You are the object and the researcher.
That's it.
Like I mentioned before. So far, I think it's clear, these 4 steps. The vision statement, don't start from the beginning, facts and parafacts, methods and methodology. And then here, I just want to bring one example of methodology. This is a paper published in our journal. Actually, I wrote this paper together with Flávio Amado. It's about universalism and Penta. And I just bring here the methodology we present. So the research was based on bibliographical review of articles, verbs, and books on the subject, especially Penta Manual, which is the basic publication for Penta, and the treatise Homo sapiens Reurbanizatus, both authored by Valdo Vieira, as well as authors' individual Penta records, the Penta diary, field courses of conscientiology, extracts of conscientiological tertulias, lives, and notes from Penta course given by Dr. Valdo Vieira. So this was really a very comprehensive research we made, trying to get this correlation between universalism and the practice of Penta. So this is just one example. Maybe you don't want to be so specific, but the more specific you are, you make the borders of your research. You tell the readers where or the source of your results or for your data. Yeah. So this is just one example. And then we move on to the step number 5. which is the results or discussion. Sometimes we have results and discussion together. It depends on the journal. But once you have written your methods, go to your results and discussion. So try to be as clear as possible and organize the results into tables or graphics or in a way that the reader can see your results easily. I can read your results in an easy way. And then you write the conclusions, the final remarks. Once you wrote these two sections, then you can write your introduction. So you see, we are making a movement which is helping you to combine the ideas. So in the introduction, you are going to bring the concepts, definitions, contexts, theoretical frameworks, so everything important for the reader to understand your methods, your results, your discussions, your concluding remarks. Yeah. Normally, in the introduction, you can also state your research question or your hypothesis, the hypothesis you want to address. And some journals have specific sections for objectives, methodology, and so on. Others accept it inside the introduction. So you have to see what is the style of the journal. But here I did bring one example about how to finish the introduction with your objectives. This is also a paper, very interesting paper, published in 2021 by Anne-Catherine and Eduardo. And they talk about the theories. Theories here is a neologism, is a new word in conscientiology, combining theory and practice of international assistance in the context of REALBACs. So what they did bring the concepts, definitions, the contexts, and then they finished the last part of the introduction with the objective. So this article has the main objective of raising awareness among intermissivist conscients about the possibility of acting as a reorganizing agent, even residing in countries where no conscientiocentric institutions exist. So it's a very interesting way to state your objectives. Yeah, they say in a very clear way what they aim with this article. And of course, they did explain a lot of these topics. What is a reorganizing agent before that? Huh? Mm-hmm. What is conscientiocentric institutions? What is to work outside the context of the community in Brazil and so on. So I think this is a good example to finish your introduction by bringing your objectives in a very clear way.
Ligia, very good. Yep. And I want to point out that writing the introduction is very important, that you do a clear introduction. And there is a frame. Introduction, many people who are not so experienced in writing articles think that introduction tells something about it. But no, you have to introduce concepts. Sometimes you have to define concepts, and you are going to state the research question very clear and the objectives. And this should usually, you should write a general objective of your research, that is the biggest thing you want to achieve with that writing, and 3 specific objectives as well. That would be the step-by-step to reach the general. Because then when you going to develop the ideas to write the article, you can work on these objectives and start developing and explaining each one of them. And then it's all this frame makes sense. It's all glued together.
Yeah,
And
and
there is a coherence between the start, the
exactly.
middle, and the conclusion. So
Exactly.
this
And
is
then
very
you are going to deal with all these sections of your article and see if it's harmonic, if it's coherent, if it's clear enough, or if you need to add something else. So that's why the introduction should be written after you deal with your results, discussions, and conclusions. This is a tip, a suggestion. And then step number 8 is a very important one. Assemble references. So why is it important to assemble the references? And again, I want to refer to the author guidelines because each journal has a specific way, format, style to cite the references in the text and to list the reference at the end. And why is it so important? First, because you give the reader the chance to get more details about what you were saying by giving him the source. Yeah. Secondly, you can support some statements that maybe are not common knowledge, not common sense, may be controversial. So you are supporting your statements with things published before. And third is to recognize, to give the credit to those who have been working in this field before you. Yeah, it's very rare to have something never written or researched by somebody else. So to give the credit and to acknowledge the contributions people gave before you started researching this topic. And at this point here, I want to give also one tip. Don't let this for the end of the paper because it's very easy to get lost and not be able to find out again the same information. So as you write your material and methods, your results, your discussion, every single citation, you should write down and compile the reference. Knowing what is it, especially, for example, when you cite Vieira. Yeah, Valdo Vieira published a lot in his life. So if you say only, this was Vieira, at the end, you read so many things. Verbates, Homo sapiens pacíficos, reorganizados, projectiology, and so on. Where did I find this information? So write Vieira, the year, and if you can, the pages and the source. This was from the Lexicon of Ordo Pensatas, for example, page blah, blah, blah. So every time you go back there, you know the source, and then you can check at the end if you cited all the references at the end. Yeah,
And
because
if
this is
you
another rule. Everything you cite should be listed at the end. And everything listed at the end normally has been cited in the text.
No,
Yeah,
very good. And also, if you take some information from the internet, you have to cite to mention
yes.
the proper link and date of access as well,
Yeah,
so that your reader can find the information over there. And I can mention that writing is an ethical act and also a political act because you are publishing something. You are publishing you are opening your personal laboratory, and you are officializing something, some your research. You're making it public, and it can help a lot of people. And it's a registration that can work as a record password for you in future lives. So it's something of great importance. It's good
Yeah,
to think
and
about it.
to cite the correct reference is very, very important. Because if you make a mistake and you cite something wrongly, you may influence other people to repeat this, and this error will be in another paper, and another one, another one. So try to get as much as possible to the original source, yeah, to the primary source. We have secondary source when you find a citation by somebody else. And all this process, there are ways to cite in a correct way. So guidelines for authors is again one of the most important documents when you are writing a paper.
Very good. And Alicia, we have a question from
Yes.
Anna Yogan. What if I accessed an original idea, hypothesis, that may explain a conscientiological energetic technique that is very abstract? How could I approach this subject and publish it without a concrete information?
Well, good question, Anna. You could publish this as a case report, for example. Yeah. It will depend on the journal policy, if they will accept. We are going to talk about this review process very soon. But what I think it's important when we access an original idea is to repeat and to experiment, you know? And we have conditions to do this in conscientiology. You can, for example, you can plan experiments. If you are not in a consciential-centric campus with the laboratories, for example, like we have in CIEC, you can do this using techniques at your home. You can use techniques for reflection, 5 hours reflection, for example, or you can combine information from parapsychic experiences you may have. I'm thinking about even Penta, for example, is a very important source for me, at least, to test and to experiment and to understand my parapsychic perceptions. So I think one approach is to get more information about this original idea. You don't have enough, but if you feel that what you have is enough and it will be assistential to other people, publish it as a short communication, or in an event. Normally they accept only an abstract. I'm thinking about the events we have, for example, the forum, Penta Forum. There is always one section which is a short abstract for experiences from Penta practitioners. And other events also have the same format. So this will not be yet an original article. Yeah? Maybe you need to combine and to collect more information, to explore more, to understand. First of all, you have to understand your experiences. And one approach, very good, is to self-experiment. Self-experimentation, which is one pillar of our paradigm.
And I would add that you can write over your hypothesis of research. So you are revisiting, reviewing hypotheses, and you are going to analyze the results of your experiments. So the results that happen with you. So what can you conclude from there? Register, write about them, write about what you discovered, write about what insights and what your possible explanation. And you are not imposing everything. And another suggestion is that you, in the end, you write that this is still being studied and it needs further studies. I would like to mention a paper that Rodrigo Marchioli wrote about the phenomena of cosmoconsciousness that is very interesting. And he mentions some criteria that he's considering for the person to confirm if she had some type of cosmic consciousness. So there are some 15 criteria that the person will analyze. And so if the person is able to fulfill 8, I suppose 8 or 10 from this 15, then possibly she had a cosmic consciousness experience. So it's very good because it becomes something abstract, more concrete.
Yeah. And also, just occurred to me to pay attention to your abilities. For example, if you want to get more information, try, for example, projectability. You can plan for 1 month or more some experiments trying to have out of body experiences. Or another approach could be also retrocognitions, for example. So there are many possibilities. I think it will all depend on your abilities and the approach you are more comfortable with. Yeah. So let's continue the. But if you want to comment more, Anna, feel free to bring more ideas, okay? So let's move on to the number 9. Then once you wrote, we finish here with the references. So now the paper is nearly finished, but you need to write an abstract. And what is an abstract? It's something really important because normally it's the second thing the reader will read. The first is the title. We are not in the title yet. But the abstract should tell the reader what is your topic, what you researched about, what is the problem, the question you asked or you addressed in your research. What is the problem? Is this important? Why it's important, this topic? Why you want to research it? And how this work you did connect with the other things in research on this field and what it adds to it. So it's a lot of things to be included in a very short text, because normally the abstracts have a word limit, 200, 250, up to 300, but not more than this normally. Yeah. So the abstract is very, very important. It's one of the last things you want to write, because then you have the general idea of your work and you know what is important to tell the reader in order to motivate him or her to read your full paper. Yeah. So I bring here one example of a very short abstract. This is a paper from our colleague Jeff Lloyd, and he wrote about internationalization of conscientiology and intraconsciential evolution, favoring a future world state. We are going to talk about title in the next slide, but look at this abstract. I will read it, okay? This article seeks to provide specifics around how conscientiology and conscientiologists can become more international while acting in alignment with the multidimensional interexistential Marx mechanism. Through personal research of various sources of information and using his experience as a conscientiometrist, the conscientiology research identifies various priority consciential traits and postures necessary for greater harmony. These traits are discussed in a manner to stimulate greater personal understanding while linking each to other to form a word state or word federation. So when I read this abstract, I want to read the paper. Do you agree? Because it's something very advanced. Of course, Jeff is an English native speaker, so he elaborated the text in a very nice way, using appropriate words in English and so on. But look, he brings very motivating statements. Yeah. So this is a very short and, from my point of view, a very efficient way to summarize a work. And the idea is exactly this, yeah, to be concise, to be objective, to tell the most important information about your work, and to motivate the reader to get more information and to read your whole paper. Okay? So let's move on to the last step, number 10. Title and keywords come last. So these are the last things you are going to write. Of course, you will use this running title you have at the beginning, but probably, very probably, you will not use it completely. You will make a lot of changes, because now you want a title which is short, objective, gives the essence of your paper, yeah, and it's the first thing the reader will interact with you. So the title is very important. It's like a visit card for your paper. Yeah. So the reader will say, okay, this is a very interesting title, I want to read it. Or how boring, what is it? I don't understand what this person made in his research. So try to be as much as objective as possible with your title, and to get the attention, to attract your readers. Yeah, and it's the same for the keywords. One tip I always give to authors is avoid to repeat the same words you have in the title in your keywords. Because, okay, when we have keywords, why keywords are important? Because they will be the indexing of your paper. Yeah? If we have the platforms for searching topics, subjects, normally you place keywords. So if your keywords are the same as in the title, it's a waste of opportunity. Yeah? So to have more visibility of your work, try to avoid the same words. You can use related words. You can use things which will be more, or will get a broader range of people to understand the topic. And this was one approach Valdo Vieira used a lot. I don't know if you are used to listen to his tertulias, but many times when somebody asked one question, he gave an answer using a broad range of words for the same concept. Normally he used a more erudite, a more sophisticated word for some to understand, but then he was using related words which maybe would be better understandable for some people in the audience. So this is one approach. And the other thing I always suggest, and Eliane mentioned before, is to analyze the titles of published papers. So be critical about it. If you see a title, you think, this is not a good title, try to restructure it. Try to propose something better. This is a practice as you go along with writing. And the last tip here in this slide is to share your ideas with more experienced authors. This is also very good. So if you have one idea, talk to somebody who published something on this topic. Ask for suggestions. Share your ideas. I think this is an important approach. Okay, so if you want to see some titles, I'm here giving one example. This was the edition from 2021. And here you see several titles. Qualification of an intermissivist working international conscientiological volunteering. It's a good title, huh? The other one we mentioned before. We have one here, look, the Bridge Book Club, reading marathon of 700 conscientiology experiments. So you know what they did, yeah? And a case report. So always starting, give the reader the idea. This is a case report. It's not a full paper. It's not an original paper. So a case study, experiences in the international dissemination of conscientiology. Of course, all these titles are according to the call of papers. This was the second International Week of Conscientiology, and the topic, the main topic, was evolutionary planetary interconnection. So you see, and here is important to see that the titles are not too long. You should be short, you should be concise. Normally the titles will have 9, 10 words, 15 maximum. Yeah, we cannot accept a title with 25 words. Nobody wants to read a full statement. It's a summary, a mega summary of what you did and why it is important. So selecting the title is the last step, and it's very, very important. You want to comment something, Eliane?
No, we are 20 minutes ahead our time. I want to let our audience know that's on purpose, because we consider that this subject is broad and it's very important. It's the first time we are doing a webinar about scientific writing. And so we want to go a bit further, if you may. Okay, just to finish and a very important part, that is the revision of the paper.
Yeah, so once you went through all these steps, congratulations, you finished your manuscript, you submit it, you are realized, you feel happy, but finishing a manuscript is not really an end of a work. So this is the time when other people join us for this interassistential work. So what comes next is the assessment of your manuscript, and normally this is made by peer review process or the editorial process. So this is when you get feedback from other people about your manuscript. And here is very important to be open to constructive criticism. Yeah. So to bear in mind that reviewers and editors have important roles in this context of this interassistance. So the recommendations coming from reviewers aim to make positive improvements on your text. Okay, so be open to this. And of course, this is a time you should be aware about the importance of interconsciential de-intrusion, to focus on cosmoethical practices, to pay attention to your tosenic flexibility, to the connection with extra-physical health, to carry on energetic work, and so on. So I think this is for another life. The problems, the common problems. We have a lot of problems, lack of fluency, written fluency, translation, neologisms, lack of clear questions about the research, poor connection of ideas. This is also very common. Poor bibliographic research, incorrect citations, we mentioned about it. And just to finish, I want to suggest people who are dealing with writing in English to read this publication I mentioned before, this paper from Eliane, Conscientiological Translation to English. And you can download, I did not mention, but the International Journal of Conscientiology is open access. You can download all the papers and so on. So I'm sorry we passed the time. I thought it was until half past, but anyway, I would like to thank you very much, Eliane, and to thank everyone who attended this webinar, and it was really great to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, Ligia. It was great to know all your experience about writing conscientiological articles. And I think that can help a lot of people who wants to write. Okay. And well, people, I would like to invite you for our next webinar that will happen on June the 2nd with Mario Luna, and he's going to talk about clairvoyance. Sorry, clairaudience. That is a phenomena that he is writing a book about. So don't miss it. And I want also to invite you all, if you are watching us from the USA, we will have this fundamentals of consciousness evolution course that is going to be hybrid, and it's going to start on August 3rd. It has 3 classes. It will be during the weekends. So if you live in the States and is watching us, try not to miss this opportunity and participate in this course. Okay? For more information, you can contact us at Rea Pendenza. And also here is the schedule of the presential classes, and we will also have online classes. And the first module is presential, and the last module is also presential. Okay? So I hope you can participate. And I thank you all the audience. Thank you very much for watching us. And remember to subscribe in our channel. Consciousness in Evolution. So thank you very much, Lisa, and everyone.
Bye bye.